What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Chewsday Special podcast with Patrick Price. That's me, and this is episode 1. Episode 1, this is the nucleus, this is the beginning, this is the genesis, is what I really meant to say, of this idea that I've had. I've done a lot of podcasts in my broadcasting, I guess, career. I really don't have a career, but in my broadcasting ventures, I've done a lot of podcasts. I've never done one that's me, that's just me. This is going to be it. And some people say Chewsday Special. What's with the name? I have some weird thing about me where when I talk about Tuesday, I say Chewsday because I guess that's what I've always said. And that's the reason it's called Chewsday Special. So if you want to make it your own, you're more than welcome to. I'll give it to you. If you want to say Tuesday instead of Tuesday, I'm bringing Chewsday back. I'm making it a word that should be in the dictionary and should be an option if you want to say the day before hump day, the day after the dreaded Monday. It is Tuesday, and it is going to be special from here on out as long as this thing goes. And once again, this is episode 1. But before I get into my guest for the day, for this episode, I should say, I'm going to thank Cabarrus Brewing Company. They support a lot of what I do. I try to do as much as I can for them. We do trivia there every Wednesday night. Me and my buddy Joel is part of the Cane Punch crew, and Nick helps out every once in a while. But yeah, we do trivia there. So if you're a trivia buff and you want to come out and hang out and play some trivia, we're there every Wednesday. They've allowed us to do it for over 2 years, and they're going to keep allowing us to do it, I assume, because I haven't gotten a phone call or a text message saying we're not doing it. So every Wednesday, new categories. Come on out. Support Cabarrus Brewing. It's a great local brewery in Concord, North Carolina. 320-something McGill Street. It's on McGill Street, right behind Gibson Mill. Yeah, check them out. They got great beer, and you can pick up any of their beer in stores and food lines around our area, around the Charlotte, North Carolina area. If you live in my neck of the woods, my backyard. No, I don't even know what that meant. But yeah, so my guest today is Evan Pittfield. I met Evan about 2 years ago, and we kind of get into it. But what it is speaking of Cabarrus Brewing, thank you for the sponsorship. But I was doing trivia at Cabarrus Brewing, and they asked me if I had any other ideas of events we can do, and I said a comedy show. Why not a comedy show? One of my good friends, Jake, is a comedian in Charlotte, and he knows a lot of comedians, and he helps me. I couldn't do it without him. He's amazing. And and so they gave me the green light, and we started a comedy show, and it's called the Craft Comedy Series. It's every third Thursday. So if you want to support Cabarrus Brewing even more and support me and Jake's hard work and effort to make those successful every week, please come out and check it out. It's a good time, and we always have good. Jake's insanely good at getting the best comedians in the area and the best comedians that are coming through Charlotte. So yeah, check it out. You can see it on. I think the information's on the Facebook page for Cabarrus Brewing Company. So, but I met Evan through Jake at one of our first or second Cabarrus Brewing Craft Comedy Series shows, and we kind of talked. We didn't really spend a lot of time getting to know each other. And Evan, to his credit, whether he's booked or not, he comes and supports local comedians and that show. And I could never thank him enough for his support and anybody's support that comes out to that. And we kind of grew like a little friendship. We're not like best friends, but we're acquaintances. We know each other. I've recently kind of stepped into the stand-up comedy world, completely blind. I'm still in the virgin state of trying to figure that stuff out. And Evan gave me some amazing advice during this episode. And even though he's only a few years in, it's always nice to know where somebody started and where they are in the time, so you can kind of gauge where you feel like you should be. And that's what I did with Evan a little bit. But we talk about music, we talk about comedy, we talk about movies, and all that good jazz. So it's a fun episode. So we got Evan. I'm trying to go through my list of what I need to go through. Upcoming appearances and shows. This Friday, August 10th, Cane Punch. If you've never heard of Cane Punch, go to canepunch.com. But Cane Punch, we're me, Joel, and Nick, and Black Nick, which is Nick King out in Greensboro. we're known as Cane Punch, and we're a comedy group. Me and Joel and Mix Nick have done this for maybe the past 10 or 12 years, and we finally stepped out of the box, and we're doing live shows, and this is what kind of gave me poked the bear on the stand up thing. Is the last Cane Punch show I did stand up for the first time, and the bug bit me, and that's kind of what got me in. But we this Friday, August 10th, we have Cane Punch taking over China Grove, North Carolina, Bella's L's and Tails, which is a bar in downtown China Grove where I grew up that I feel like shouldn't have a bar, but it does, and it's amazing. And you can take your dogs in there, not Friday, but any other time. You can take your dogs in there and drink a beer and let your dog hang out on the cold tile floor and listen to music and hang out with the China Grovians, the Sea Grovers. That's what we'll call them, the Sea Grovers. So yeah, check that out. Please come out. Tickets are $5 in advance. They're $8 the day of the show. So in theory, I would get my tickets before Friday, August 10th. So if you can't get them online, you have to go to Bella's L's and Tails. I understand if you're coming from out of town and going, then you just pay the $8 and you're supporting a good cause. But yeah, so come out. It's going to be fun. I work with a professional wrestling company called PWX, and we have some 3 shows actually in August coming up. So August 19th is at Cabarrus Arena in Concord, North Carolina, and that's a wrestling show, pwxwrestling.com or pwxpro.com, excuse me. Then we got August 25th, we got Pure at Hebron Hall, which is in South Charlotte. Speaking of beer and breweries, we have Cabarrus Brewing there, and there's breweries all over that place, so you can tailgate or you can go out and have a few beers and come check it out. Pure Saturday, August 25th, and then August 26th, PWX takes over BB&T Ballpark. If you're not familiar, if you're not from the Charlotte area, BB&T Ballpark is the home of the Charlotte Knights, who are the baseball team, the AA, one of those A's baseball teams in Charlotte, and they have an amazing stadium, an amazing amazing like faculty. Is that what you call amazing? What's the word I'm looking for? Amazing ambassadors? No. Administrative team? Well, it's one of those is right. So one of those is right. They have an amazing team working with Tommy and the Crockett Foundation that I'll link the Crockett Foundation. Brian tells me all the time what the Crockett Foundation does, and I can't remember. I know it's something to do with feeding. And I'm sorry for the Crockett Foundation, but yeah, I'll link their link down below the video or on the canepunch.com page where we put this on iTunes. And so check that out. This amazing organization based out of Charlotte, built from the Crockett name. If you're not familiar with professional wrestling, Jim Crockett, who owned NWA, who eventually owned WCW and sold and all that jazz. So we're working with Charlotte Knights and the Crockett Foundation to raise money. We got 3 matches, raise money for the Crockett Foundation. On Crockett Foundation night, that's August 26th. Look on pwxpro.com for tickets, for super tickets, for game tickets and event tickets. So the 3 matches and a baseball game. And yeah. So if you, once again, like I just said, that's all the dates that I have coming up. If you want to see what me and my buddies do, canepunch.com. We just released a new video. Actually, yesterday we released a video for the motto, our first music video in probably 3 years. We haven't really jumped on it, but I think we're going to start working on our new record. We released the last one. It's called Spicy Tuna Roll. We released it in 2013, maybe. I want to say 2013, and I think it's time. I think we took our break. I think we went our own ways. We did our own thing, and now it's time to come back, form the group again, the mega group, known as the Cane Punch All-Stars, and start getting this thing rolling. So, yeah, check out our youtube.com/Cane Punch or canepunch.com, or go to our Facebook page and please like and follow Cane Punch. I think it's just Cane Punch Comedy, I believe, on Facebook, I think. Subscribe, like, follow, all that good stuff. We don't really put much on Twitter, so I'm not going to push you on the Twitter. But yeah. So, yeah, I think that's all my plugs, sponsors, so. Yeah, I think so. So, thank you for listening to episode 1. Hopefully, when this gets up on iTunes, you'll subscribe, or you'll just check back at canepunch.com. And every Tuesday, God, see, I don't have to correct myself. That's amazing. Every Tuesday, you can check back for a new episode. I'm gonna try to tackle and hold down as many wrestlers, comedians, business associates, friends, strangers. I don't care. Whoever I feel like I want to interview for this show, I'm gonna interview, and it's gonna be every Tuesday because Tuesdays are now special. So now you know, and knowing is half the battle, right? Chewsday Special. First guest, let's take it to my interview with Evan Pittfield. And I was like, okay, I'll come up and go try to pull some people up. Yeah. There was like 2 people in there, and I came up, and there was like 65 people just sitting there waiting.
That's pretty dope, man. That's a lot of beers.
A lot of beers. And I didn't drink. Like, I've been on this no drinking kick till last Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I like beer. It's definitely my like thing of choice. But I guess I drink the craft beers, you know. So it's like I can't really drink a lot of them, otherwise I'll get full. You know?
Yeah.
Like I won't even get drunk.
You won't get drunk?
I get drunk when I drink a lot of the like imperial stouts.
Gotcha.
You know, I way back when, there's really no way for me to talk about beer without sounding like the ultimate hipster. But the truth of the matter
everybody does, I think.
Back in 2012 was the first time that I ever discovered an IPA, and I was like, "What is this shit?" And then I showed it to like some of my friends, and I was like, "Dude, you got to try it." I don't remember what it was. It was someplace in Asheville, and everyone's like, "Dude, that's gross. Like that's disgusting." And I was like, I felt like isolated because I was like, I think it's pretty good. And then there was this like 2 years later, this gigantic
big
IPA
beer boom.
Yeah, and so at that point I had shifted to ESBs.
Okay.
And at that point I figured I overlapped most of my friends because I actually brewed an ESB and I gave it to my friend, and then like a year after that he was like, "Dude, have you had ESBs before?" I was like, I gave you one. And he's like, "Oh yeah." So my girlfriend and I, we like to visit breweries like when we go out of town and stuff.
Yeah,
it's just like,
definitely.
It's a nice thing. And then I guess the imperial stouts and the barley wines are currently where I'm stuck. You know,
yes,
they're
fair
really
enough.
good.
Where would you say is the best brewery you found outside of North Carolina?
Best brewery outside of North Carolina.
We started talking about beer. I'll talk about beer for 2 hours straight.
Well, okay, so I would say the best brewery that I found outside North Carolina. I have a tie. Can I do 2?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
yeah.
I mean, that's literally
sounds good to
logically me. An issue, but I'm gonna go ahead and break the rules.
Let's do it.
The first best that I found in sequence was Sweetwater in Georgia.
Okay.
And because every time I went there, have you been there before?
Yeah, I have never been there, but I've had their beer.
Yeah, every time you go there,
Sweetwater 420, right?
Yeah, they keep expanding. It's like a huge warehouse, and they just keep getting more space. And they do comedy. They do but that was like one of the first kind of West Coast IPAs that I tried, and I was like, this is a little different. And they had a imperial stout called Happy Ending. And you went there, and you'd pay $10, I think, and you would get like 3 little pink, almost like raffle tickets.
Gotcha.
And that was 3 pints.
Nice.
So it was a pretty good deal. But then the most recent best brewery that I've been to was actually in Brussels, in Belgium. It's called Delirium.
That's right. You just had a trip over.
Yeah. It's you may have seen it because it is here in the States.
Okay.
It's like they're typically in like white, like sandblasted bottles, and there's like a pink elephant on it, and it says Delirium, like Tremens or something. And of course, Belgian beers there are a lot better than the knockoffs, and it's pretty cool. It's been around for a really long time, and it was a nice like pub where there's no TVs, there's no music, like it's just ambience and good beer.
Nice.
You know, like people just go there and actually talk to each
what
other.
a brewery should
like
be.
Like no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little private island.
Like I miss the days that you could just go to a brewery, sit at a beer, not a brewery, even like a bar, and just sit at a bar and meet people.
Yeah.
You remember the like probably like how old are you?
I am 28.
Okay, so you're a little younger than me.
Yeah, I mean, I never followed the rules though.
Yeah,
I was drinking for as long as they would let me in.
We're two talkative people.
Yeah.
I feel like we'd have no problem meeting people.
No.
So I'll walk up to somebody in Walmart and just start a conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
just to see where it goes.
It's the best way to get through Walmart anyway, right? We're doing
this
together.
The best way to tolerate Walmart.
Yeah, you need to use the buddy system at all times in Walmart, right?
Yeah, but I miss the days of like now. Even me, and I spend a lot of my time in breweries. Yeah. Even me, when I'm going to a brewery, I'll say, I'll call friends and be like, "Hey, you want to go to a brewery with me?
Yeah.
No, you want to go brewery hopping? You want to hit up 3 or 4 breweries in Charlotte?" And if they say no, I usually don't go. I don't know why. It's like it's almost lonely if you go by yourself because everybody's with somebody.
It is, well, and also like, again, the point you were making earlier about like old-fashioned breweries or pubs where like, it's more about like the ambience and just the inclusion of hanging out with people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in Charlotte, but I've been to a lot of the breweries and I don't really know where to go to find that. So if you go yourself, you feel like everyone's kind of like, well, who's this guy?
Yeah.
He's like you're not like in the sewing circle.
Yeah.
But if you go to some of these old-fashioned like pubs and stuff like that, there's really no such thing as a sewing circle, right?
Yeah.
Everyone
meets
family
everybody.
Immediately. Yeah, exactly. And so it's a better feeling.
I always relate back to a story when we were at Myrtle Beach, or like North Myrtle, which I don't really care for Myrtle Beach anymore. But it was like North Myrtle, and we went to. Do I sound like a robot?
No, unless they're improving robots.
No, maybe
the AI
might just be the way I hear my voice.
No,
it sounds weird to me.
No, I mean,
does that sound okay to you? You're the audio expert.
We have plosives right now, which I hope you know.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
So it's a really, I don't even know if that's a real word. I know it's used. I think people just made it up because there's no other way to describe this.
Gotcha.
Like it may have been not a word, now it is.
Mm-hmm.
But so. Have you ever seen like pop filters that they put over here? Most often the foam can take care of it, but most often the foam sits so close to the mic that
it doesn't hit it.
Yeah. So general rule of thumb is you have a pop filter and you usually just use a fist. And you get a fist length in between the mic and your fist, and then you get as close to the pop filter as you can. And
okay. So maybe I need. Let me see. I don't know. It might be me hearing myself talking and in my headphones.
You gotta do the you gotta do the popcorn seashells test. You say like popcorn seashells. So when you go pop, it's like there's a little
popcorn,
and it's got impact. And so the
so do
thing
you want
dampens.
You don't want the.
I don't care. It sounds more natural to be honest, but it's on the recording. It's a lot less smooth. You're gonna have like peaks and you're gonna have like stuff in the background.
I'm usually pretty good about getting, but it's like I sound like I'm in a robotic voice in my head, like in my headphones.
Oh no, you don't sound robotic.
Okay, as long as we don't get all the way through this, and then I get to the very end, and I'm like, oh my god,
you play back the tape. You're like, do you like beer? And
yeah,
it's like, damn it,
I've done it before. I've done it before, but that was in my virgin podcasting days. Yes. But
you were a little pod.
But yeah, it was a little place. I can't remember the name of it. It was like McKinney's. It's an Irish pub on the main strip. And I remember I got done with the show and we got there. My friends stayed back, so they were already there. I got there like midnight, and like there was not a stranger in the room when we walked in. When we walked in, my buddies had already made all these friends. Like, this is Patrick. Like everybody's like Patrick, and then the bartender was like, all right, I'm shutting the door. I'm locking it. Nobody can come in, but you guys can hang out and drink for as long as you want to. So we were there till like 5 a.m, and then just walked to our condo.
No, it's perfect.
I mean, that's the good old days.
It doesn't get better than that. You know, everyone's there, and they had a rough week, and like that's all you need to bond. Yeah, right. You know?
It's like a room full of people with really no cares in the world, just hanging out, having fun.
Yeah, It's a true. It's a true collaboration, right? Because everyone actually has the same end goal. It's just like, let's just forget about yesterday.
Yeah, let's forget about yesterday, maybe today.
Yeah, we don't have to create damage. We don't have to create like a big scene. Let's just hang out and just like at least manipulate ourselves to believe that everything is going to be okay for tonight. It's
living in the moment. Something people never do anymore. They capture the moment. They don't live in the moment.
Now they live in the moment while texting and driving.
Yeah,
which I've done. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite.
Don't do it, but we do it.
Yeah. I mean, in my defense...
Do as we say, not as we do.
In my defense, I don't advocate texting and driving, but, like, driving is boring.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's just.
Has podcasts made driving less boring? Like,
Um,
are you one of the? There's two types of people. There's people that can listen to podcasts while they drive and get into it and get into what the topic is and the subject matter, and then there's people that it like immediately knocks them out, like talk radio.
Well, so for me, I live not really by choice. I live in the past, and so I have my grandfather. He's dead. My grandfather's like 2005 Hyundai Elantra, so it's got CD, and
Nice.
I installed an aftermarket like MP3 jack, but like the audio quality is terrible. So I actually still listen to CDs on purpose. And I listen to podcasts sometimes, like at the computer. But it's mainly music. So I got my start, I guess, in music. So I'm like a music first kind of guy, and I would say I'm listening to music probably 90% of the week, somehow, some way.
So are you one of those like all kind of music people? Like, do you love all kinds of music?
It's hard to it's hard to interpret, but I started off as a kid. I wasn't really ever into music as like a kid.
Yeah.
But like once the kind of preteen and teenager years came, I started getting interested in like rock and metal, and luckily my dad was interested in that stuff too. So like it was very easy for me to just like take his library, and I didn't have to go buy them all myself.
Yeah,
so I
definitely
started listening to like Van Halen's and Judas Priests and stuff like that, and still some of my favorites. But I picked up actually playing guitar when I was like 15, and so that kind of changed what music I listened to, because I started listening to find like other guitarists and like so I can hear impressive riffs and like learn how to pull off some stuff. So
definitely
like started listening to more progressive stuff like Dream Theater and like King Crimson and just like wacky stuff.
Gotcha.
Nowadays it's a lot of those same bands, and there's also a lot of Swedish bands. So like there's a lot of like black metal, folk metal bands and stuff that have like a 12-minute, a lot of the music I listen to nowadays, it's either like really soothing 70s stuff, or it's progressive music that has a lot in common with like cinema.
Gotcha.
Where like it's like 20 minutes and like there's pieces, and it's like
tells
a huge
a complete story through the song.
Yeah, like I still love Green Day, and I still love Sum 41 and those quick like
Poppy
pop
music.
Yeah, it's hard. I can't throw those away, But
well, that's what you grew up on.
Yeah, I mean, I started looking for records, and it's very few, but I started looking for records where like every song is good, and like I don't have to press next once, and it's not very it's not
rare.
common.
It's
yeah,
rare.
it's there are few Smashing Pumpkins albums.
I was about to say, what was the first record that you if you can remember that you listened to and didn't press next?
Damn, that's a good question. Unfortunately, I think that was way later on, because I had been listening to music for a while, but it was there was two records that I thought were perfect. There was Dream Theater's Images and Words, and actually when I was a kid, the first one was probably Green Day Dookie.
Nice.
It's just a straight. There's one attitude on that record, and it's a weird thing because, over time I realized that the more dynamics and the more kind of like variance that you have in one record, the longer it lasts.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately the opposite effect happens. Like if you have a record like Dookie, for instance, where like it's just this one thing,
like one
through the whole
all
record.
the way through.
Yeah, that's actually got a lot of drawbacks, right? Because like I find that for me, what I want to listen to in the moment is very much driven by my current mood.
Gotcha.
So like all I have to do is not be in that mood for that Green Day record, and I'm like, get this shit out of here, man.
Gotcha.
But then like the next day, it'll be my favorite record. So
I've always found it interesting how either I don't like for musician, because I'm not a musician. I've learned how to like mix and master and music, and I'm a tech guy. But like, so from a mind of a musician. Are you a magician? Are you a magician as well?
For my next trick, I'm going to lose weight, hopefully. Right?
I'm waiting. Let's go. No, I'm just kidding. But like when your music knowledge grows,
yeah,
the music that you like or that you're entertained by changes.
Yeah,
because I feel like when me and my friends have this conversation, or when I have a conversation like I'm having with you, it's we talk about all these like pop, like you said, like Sum 41 or Green Day, and all this from back in when we were younger, and we had no like really couldn't process music, just kind of like we find the sounds we like, we find the riffs that intrigue us, we find the subject matter of the cuss word that garners our attention when we're 12 or 13 years old.
That's right.
Where you sing a whole song just to say that cuss word part.
Oh, yeah.
And but then like now I find myself like with like songs that gives meaning. Like one song, there's a song that like a rap song that Eminem did with Nate Russ from, I think it's Roos, from Fun.
Yeah. The Tonight guy. Tonight.
Yeah. And I think it's called Headlights. That's the name of it. And dude, that song is basically about, if you listen to the words of it, it's about like him apologizing to his mom for everything,
Eminem
and
does
understanding,
that from time to time,
yeah, and understanding like that he was assuming a bunch of things, and he overstepped his boundaries and all this stuff.
It's coming clean, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, and now like that's the kind of stuff that hits me now that I can put together. Like, okay, I'm getting the feeling that the artist had when they wrote this song.
It's interesting. I find that I also might listen to different bands like when I'm working. You know,
Gotcha.
I find there's a lot of like my biggest guitar influence is Joe Satriani. I don't know if you're familiar. A lot of people aren't, but he looks like Voldemort. So if you ever Google it by accident, that's the one. It's all guitar instrumental, and it's not necessarily like shred, but it's just like it's almost like the guitar kind of takes the place of a vocalist. Gotcha. And it's cool because when you're working, you know, like on difficult stuff that you have to like mentally process, and maybe you're like soldering or something. Yeah. It's like you can't. It's like you can focus on the music, but you also can at the same time. Like it's not crap enough to be background noise. Like it's a little bit more than that, but at the same time, you're not just kicking back and listening to a record. Like you have work to do. So I found that like sometimes these things, that type of music, the instrumental music, where like the lyrics are out of the picture, it kind of gives me some focus back to pay attention on what I'm doing. But like the notes and the guitar and the drums are still keeping like my blood pumping, so I don't get tired doing the work. You know, so it's almost like cheating.
It's the same like. The concept of people that listen to music when they work out. It's
exactly.
You put together the playlist that keeps your blood boiling, keeps you motivated, keeps you going.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, I still buy records and CDs, and I
love that.
It's funny, man. I freaked out. I freaked out my girlfriend. I'm nothing negative, but she does like the Spotify. Yeah. And she's got musical tastes all over the place. I mean, we both love like System of a Down. Yeah. And then she likes like Japanese pop music and stuff. It's like all over the place. But I freaked her out because I showed her this album. There's this band from Asheville, and I've never met them before, but their name is Basque. And I just saw their album art at the store, and I was like, I got to check that out. And she's like, so wait a minute, you've never even heard of these guys before, and you just bought their CD like without hearing it? I'm like, yeah, that's how that works.
Love it.
It's like that's crazy, man.
That's it. That's the beauty.
Times have changed, I guess.
Yes, I mean with digital media, it's hard. Like I'm still one of those guys that want a disc, like they want a case that can open it up and read the inserts and who all they think. You just had to have the feel it to open it and have that disc and look at the art.
Yeah, and like I think my age-old argument, and not me, I think everyone's, is like, listen, if you, first of all, if you want me to switch over to the digital world, I mean, the numbers are there. They're less quality files. They're compressed. I mean, some people don't care about that. I do, but like the biggest problem, other than them just ripping quality out of it, is it's the same price.
Yeah,
it's the same price. Like if I wanted to buy your CD, it's $14.99 at FYE, or it's $14.99 on your website. I mean, at least like
you have to
meet
cut
me
the
halfway.
There's
man.
no production cost if you don't have materials.
No, it's
that
the
you have
same
to
with
print.
video games, right?
Yeah.
Like they're doing. It's like, all right, well, I'm not. I don't know. I'm like you. I still prefer the physical thing.
It's corporate America using digital media
and
to trick the world.
I personally need a physical copy, not only to appreciate the artwork and like the liner notes, but for two reasons. One, I like to go to concerts so I can get shit signed.
Yes.
From my idols.
I like it.
And then two, for when I pick up a bad album, I need to actually have the ability to just throw it out.
Fair enough.
There's just something.
I understand that.
There's just something about me pressing eject and be like, get the fuck out of here. This is garbage. I don't want to ever hear this again. It's very judgmental because obviously, you know, it's a band and it's just me, but I have to be able to just get this out of here.
But that's freedom of speech, freedom of interpretation.
Pretty much, man. You know,
that's.
See if
I never thought about it like that.
See if I could hit a car or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Like I've never. I don't know. Like even if a CD sucked, I still have it. Like one of the funnest things I've ever done is go through like my CD collection from when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Because my parents somewhere in their basement have like my little tower. You remember the towers that had the four faces that you could slide everything in, and you just go through and look. Like I mean, like I had a Rush remastered CD.
Oh yeah.
I had then I had Sawyer Brown country.
Nice.
Like country, old school, Clint Black.
You used to have to start like color coding your tower.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, here's progressive, here's jazz.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's like people won't have that anymore. And another thing is, I mean I'm not big with iTunes. I remember Napster and LimeWire and all that, but if you have like if you lose all your iTunes, do you get it back or do you have to repurchase it? Or if you don't back it up, like that's another scary thing about digital media is like it's all just files, just like pictures. Like people used to have picture albums and the only way they could go anywhere is if they got destroyed or if they lost or like you know what I mean, if they misplaced them, or if they were torn up. And like now, if a hard drive crashes, you lose everything.
Yeah, and people back stuff up in the cloud, but I think.
But that's proven to not be a good idea in the past.
Well, I don't want to illegally download songs and then put them in the cloud and like admit that I stole them. Like I don't want anyone to have a copy of the things I illegally downloaded.
Well, when I say Napster and LimeWire,
allegedly,
I mean that was back before I appreciated like artistic, like the support of artistic integrity and artistic ability.
Yeah, you know what I think it is. It's not a bad thing. I think it really just boils down to there's two types of listeners, right? There's somebody who hears music, right? Like it's background noise. Yeah. Like, I'm making guacamole. Let's listen to some music. And then I think there's people who listen to music, right? And they're not better than anybody. But if I could speak for myself, like I have just a level of obsession with music. Like I have a record room. And I just sit there and front to back, like I listen to a new album or an old one that I really love, right? And so when I'm listening to it, I'm trying to pay attention to details, and the act of listening for me requires you to be stationary.
Okay.
Right? Like, go ahead and listen to music while you're jogging. There's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and do it while you're working. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're stationary and like while you're listening to it, the volume is loud enough to make it that you can't hear anything else but it, even with headphones or whatever. Like I think that's just the best experience when you're inside the music and alone. Yeah. Right? Because then you hear stuff that you've never heard before. You get better headphones, you get better speakers. It's like, oh, I've been listening to bands. iTunes tells me that I've listened to this one song for like 3 days or something because it totals like the amount of playtime. Yeah. And I've never, and until I heard it on a new set of headphones, I had never heard this little guitar lick. And I was like, whoa, man, like I've never heard that. But like there's so much going on that if you're just jogging or whatever, you're not going to hear it.
I'm a lot like that with like cinematic film. I'm one of those that if I go to a theater to see a film, I don't want anybody. Like I rarely ever go with anybody. Oh, yeah. I want to be by myself. I'd love for it to be like a 4:00 matinee where there's nobody there, so I can just get lost in it. Yep. And then I can see.
No, I got in a debate with someone recently because we play music and we talk about music and we're always like, dude, you got to check out this new band. And the thing is, like, I mean, I love suggestions. I want to check
Yeah.
out new music, but sometimes people want to like show you then and there, you know, and like on their phone.
Yes.
And it's, I mean, I get it. They have something in their mind. They want to get the point across.
Yeah.
But I hate listening to music with people. Like if I'm at a concert, that's the exception. Cause again, it's like a pub type feel.
But then it's like the full experience. It's not just like, it's not just the musical experience of you're taking what they give you and put into
because it's like you're just talking while you're trying to show me the song. You're like, dude, listen to this part. And this is great. It's like, I don't know. I can't hear it.
I do this. So I understand that I'm being a hypocrite. Where they turn it all the way up and put it up to your ear. Like through the speaker of the
What has ever sounded good coming through no, and it's one of those things. Just like, listen, man, let's get 2 pairs of headphones and like you go in that corner and I'll go in this corner, right? And we'll both listen to it alone. Like, don't even look at me, right?
Like just take a note of it in your phone.
And when we're done, we can be like, dude, did you see? You know, it's like a movie, right? Like you would sit in the movie theater next to each other, but like you wouldn't talk if you're a good person.
That's
right?
true.
Like when it's done, like. Then
when
be like,
after credits roll,
it's an hour and a half. The albums are, you know, an EP's 40, like just hang out, you know, just lay down.
So let's get into some of the other things you're in, because you said you were in music. You do stand up comedy.
I stand up from time to time.
That's where we met.
That is true. We met at Cabarrus Brewing.
Yes, we did. At our craft comedy show.
This brewery. I gotta say, man, I think they have a monopoly in the Concord area.
Yes.
Their facility is like ridiculous,
and it's only been open for 2 years.
But they've got like a whole front yard. It's like always food trucks and stuff. There's like fire pits, and it's 2 floors. Comedy's on the 2nd floor.
Yes, right? Do you know the story behind the comedy?
No.
So when they first opened, I knew one of the managers, and he asked me if we could do trivia, like if I knew how to do trivia.
Oh, nice.
And I had been to like Flying Saucer.
That was one of the questions. He's like, "Do you know trivia?"
Yeah.
Like, if you know the answer, you'll win tonight. It's like, oh, that is trivia.
Oh, you want me to do trivia?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
I
was missing the point. Yeah. And so we just started doing trivia, and it was a big hit. And they said, with that, gave me the opportunity to request other things we can do there. Yeah. When they asked. And the first thing I thought of was a comedy show. I don't know of anywhere in Concord that does stand-up comedy.
At the time, and so I had lived in Concord from July of 2013 until Feb of this year.
Yeah.
And the first time that I did the show there, I was just really happy because we had been to that brewery before the show started, and it was like 3 miles away from my house.
Yeah.
Right. So I would tell you and Jake that every time I would go to as many of those shows as I could, even if I wasn't on them, because it's like, man, I got no excuses, man. I'm right here.
Yeah.
You know. So so far, it's always been a good time there, and it's improved. It's improved because I know you guys got like some sound risers and stuff, and it seems like there's a nice local following there.
Yeah, and the best part about that brewery is all of the owners are so supportive to all of it. They always constantly ask what do you need? Like what do you want to do? Yeah. So that's that's where we met.
Nice.
For the first time.
That's true. Yeah, it was fun, man.
It's a great room too.
It is, you know.
When I started, I had no idea. Like I had been to one stand-up comedy show, and it was like one of the like headline comedians that came to Ovens Auditorium. It wasn't like a It was like a comedy club. It was like a Live Nation.
Yeah.
And I don't consider that a real comedy show. That's a comedy concert. Is that? I mean, am I right in that?
I've never heard that before. That's interesting. It's online. Yeah, I mean, you have to actually zoom into a graph to pick your seats. Yeah. So it's legit.
And it's in a sense, to take it back to music. I know we spend a lot of time on music, so we won't jump back to that. But to take it back to music, I feel like if you go to see a band, like if I go to see your band at Rest in Peace Tremont, you know,
that'd be awesome.
Then that's a musical show.
Right.
That's like
right.
I can be it's an intimate show.
It's like a production.
Yeah.
Like
and
produced. Yep.
If I go to see Justin Timberlake at Time Warner Cable Arena or Spectrum Center, whatever it's called, and that's a concert. That's a music concert.
I gotcha. No,
That's where you're not an intimate piece of the puzzle there.
Right.
And I love, which is crazy to me before. That's why I fell in love with the comedy thing the first time we did it. Because I did it, and then I knew, I requested it because I had my buddy Joe and Nick that do comedy with me, or that did like video comedy and music comedy. Never, like, they did stand up. I've never even tried to touch stand up.
I gotcha.
Before then, and once I saw that first show, I was like, dude, this is amazing. Like, even if there was if there was 5 people in here, like the intimacy of it and the I love watching people work on their craft and improve their craft.
Oh yeah.
No matter their talent level, like watching people like work hard and try to do the best they can to improve their craft is, from an artist standpoint, is an amazing thing.
It's different, you know. I definitely walked into comedy with some ignorant thoughts. I thought like, well, I've played music and I've like performed in front of people, so I didn't think it was going to be easy, but I thought there were some things that I had automatically. I mean, I learned, you know, that was different. I think there were some relatable skills that made it like I don't have stage fright, for instance.
Yeah. I
think that helps a lot. But there seems to be a magical relationship between breweries and comedy. I feel like it doesn't matter, you know, race or age, but just like the demographic of people that show up to a brewery are typically like kind of laid back and open-minded, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're paying $8 for a beer, right?
Yeah.
Like you already have to kind of be like, I don't have a problem with that, to be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like someone's gonna get really pissed off that comedy's going on in the background, because there's been a few shows that people have hosted here at like coffee shops or at like churches or at like, they don't last very long. People get mad, you know, but. It just, I don't know. That just seems. I know there's a brewery show at Sweetwater. There's seems like
there's more.
Yeah,
and if we like, I'm sure there were comedy shows at breweries before the craft comedy series, but hopefully in this area, like I try to use that when I'm trying to like talk to other places. When I go to other breweries, I tell them like, listen, we've done comedy shows here that's been successful. Not that I'm trying to pitch to you. I want to I want to promote a comedy show here. Right. I'm just telling you it's something that might help the brewery. Like it helps the brewery, it helps like comedy, and it helps the comedy like world around this area.
Yeah, and I mean it's a good point, because when it comes to a brewery, I mean every one of them operate differently, but for the most part, you know, you can have two experiences of a brewery, right? You could just buy their stuff in the store if they bottle, or you can go there, right? And if you go there, it's kind of free range in terms of, well, what are we going to present to people who come, to patrons who come here, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no problem with it being just beer, but again, with a place like Cabarrus that's basically a warehouse, I mean, there's just so much room for stuff to go down, you know. And so it's I think you guys capitalize on it.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. But that's. Like I'm just now getting to stand up, so I relate to what you're talking about, because when I tell when my buddy Joel, who's done stand up, who's done a few like tours with people, like been like openers, like I tell him, I said I'm not scared to go up there in front and talk in front of people. What I'm scared about is, I want them to get the best experience that I can give them.
Right.
So I want to not even in a sense, I want laughs. I want to be very good at this thing.
Sure.
Once I learn like the ins and outs of it, but it's almost like a performance art, to where I want to give them everything I can, like that in my ability as of right now, and I want them to be able to like take it in the way I want them to take it in. Oh, yeah. And I know I can't help their interpretation of it, but it's up to me to like present the play the way I want it to be seen.
Yeah, and
that's
I think
where a lot of the not paranoia, but the fear comes from, you know?
No, for sure. I mean, because and you made a really good point earlier, is people working on their craft and the work that they do for even maybe like a wiener joke. Even, you know, and the thing is, like, a lot of if you're in the audience, right, a lot of people don't realize how much work goes into some of those things, you know, and a lot of people don't realize that, I mean, the ongoing joke, you know, is that like most comedians and musicians are homeless or whatever, you know, or you know, just struggling, and that's true. But on the flip side, there's a lot of us who, you know, have only really a smidgen of time to spend on doing the things that we actually love, like comedy or music. And so it's like you have to say to yourself, like, all right, well, with this minimum amount of time I have, like you said, I got to make it good.
Yeah.
So when you do provide it to an audience, it's not like, hey, laugh at me because I did something. That's not exactly what you're going for. But yeah, in the back of your head, you have been like Thursday at the brewery on your calendar.
Yeah.
Is a lot more stressful. And it's a lot more of a big deal than Thursday at the brewery for someone in the audience's calendar.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the driver versus the passenger,
Yeah.
right? You could either just hang out and play Game Boy in the passenger seat, Game Boy, throwback. Yeah.
Amen.
Wait, or you have to drive. And again, it's not like someone's better than somebody else. It's nothing like that. But it's just you're doing something. You're active and you're doing something, right? It's like someone in the Olympics trying to do their skater trying to land their triple axel or whatever. Like they're trying to do it. And so a lot of people performing, whether it's sports or arts or whatever, I mean, they tend to be inside their head a little bit because that's where they are when they're practicing.
I think one of the most interesting things about comedy to me is that you necessarily have to practice in front of people.
Right.
Like you can only stand in the mirror and say a joke so many times or sit with your friends and like throw out these things, because once your friends hear it 2 times, they're just like, okay, we got it.
They're not friends anymore.
And it's like, that's so weird to me because like you stated, like athletes,
unique.
Yeah, athletes have practice. That's just not in front of anybody, in front of peers and coaches, but that's it. Like comedians, and I mean even musicians, to bring both of them together. Like musicians, like will go to a sound stage or sound room or garage to practice. Yeah, to practice their riffs and practice their vocals and do vocal lessons and practice drum lines or drum beats, and you know what I mean. And but like comedians, like you can't, like I could set up a microphone over here in the garage and do a set, but I have no idea how it's going to translate to the audience.
Right.
And that's one of the most unique things that intrigues me. That has intrigued me since I've started, like doing the shows and helping with the shows.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
it's not, because the thing is, to your point, right? Like I think, I would say one of the things that's unique about comedy. Well, I'm going to compare it to sports because we're talking about sports, right? Let's say it's like one game, like a baseball game. It's not nothing like major, just like a normal season game or whatever. Or you doing a stand-up show, right? If you go and play baseball, right, like you said, you've been practicing at home. Okay, the comedian's been practicing at home too. We're still tied.
Yeah.
But then when you go play the game, right, in baseball, it ends.
Yeah.
Right. It's over. I mean, you're still a baseball player. There's still the next game.
Yeah.
But that game ends. Right. You lose or win. And there's stuff that you can take away from that game, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't swing at that anymore, or whatever. Like, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah. With
comedy, I think sometimes, especially when you're starting out, sometimes things work.
Yeah.
And you don't know why. And
that's true.
That's like in baseball, you'll know pretty well why things didn't work or did work. And I mean, it's not black or white, but it's a little bit more firm statistically. Like, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to do that next time.
Yeah.
And even though there's a lot of variance at play with comedy, the other difference too is that it's not necessarily that everyone there came to see you.
Yeah.
Right. If you're playing a baseball game and you're like the Charlotte Knights, there's people in the crowd that don't even know you, and they're just like, yeah, well, I live in Charlotte though, so I'm gonna, every time you guys score a home run, I'm gonna throw my popcorn and get excited.
Gotcha.
Like you kind of already have them on your side, and so with comedy, the other huge difference is it's just you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where I thought you were going with it.
With music, you could always say like, I don't know who it was, but the band was off tonight.
Yeah.
There's
always something to fall back on.
Yeah. Internally, we're like, who's the bassist, dude?
Yeah.
He missed that. But no one, But with comedy, it's like, all right, here I am, and people are like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's all your fault.
Yeah.
And to a degree, I actually like that a lot. One of the many frustrations of music that I don't have in comedy was that teamwork effort.
Yeah.
To me, teamwork sucks unless you have if you have a great team.
Yeah.
It's irreplaceable.
It works.
It's the greatest thing in the world, and it's like, wow, that feels really good. But until then,
but that's like few and far between.
Exactly, and so it's just with a team. Also, it very much is like the projects in school where you had a team project where it's like, well, maybe you actually were doing A work, but they all brought you down to a C, right? And now now everyone has a C.
Now you're a C band.
Yeah, and so it's like the cool thing about comedy, and it's a double-edged sword. It's the good part and the bad part is that it's at least the performance itself is all you. Of course, there's other people involved. There's managers that need to do this. There's book it, but the mic and the noises and the text, it's all you, right? So when something does go wrong, I guess one of the easiest way for me to swallow that pill and move on is like, that's feedback for me.
Yeah.
Not for anyone else on my team. It's within my control versus previously when it was like, hey, it's just reality. Instead, it's like, this is my reality now.
This is on me.
And so if I mess something up or I don't address it, that's easy. I'm just upset with myself.
Are you a control freak? You feel like?
To an extent.
See, that's
I don't know. I don't know if there's a difference between obsessed and control freak because they sound very similar. If there is, I'm going to subscribe to obsessed.
Gotcha.
Because with obsessed, like my end goal is ultimately, like you said, to not only be happy, but to make to provide something for people.
I'm gonna dig in your mind on this one. If to be too obsessed, excuse me, does that hurt you in the long run?
Yeah, that's always the question, right? It doesn't even matter if it's anything in life.
So I'll give you an example.
Sure.
So I recently started trying to get into stand-up comedy. I've done a few sets, and my obsession mind goes to, okay, in order to be successful, I need to do as many sets as possible, which I like, which is true. Like to get better.
Sure.
I need to set me up a Facebook page that says comedian. I need to start a podcast. I need to put out videos on my Facebook page. I need to.
It's like a full-time job.
Yeah, but it's almost. But that always I'm at like a seesaw where that like I do too much too fast.
Sure.
Like give everything time to breathe.
No, I'm a premature ejaculator too.
Yeah. So it's like you start if you start doing stand up. Like tonight will be my third set.
Nice.
And
lucky number hat trick, yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick.
The first one was okay. The second one was better, and hopefully the third will be even better. But I know that bad one is coming, and that's but if I jump on all this other stuff and try to do the full package as opposed to just letting learning stand-up comedy breathe and like taking in everything I can find out there, because I'm not one of those people that come out and say, oh, I think I know how to do this, just let me do my thing. I'm not. I'm a sponge. Like you just continuously feed me information. Yeah. And but I'm scared that like I'll get too carried away. Like now, like this podcast and my Facebook page and all that stuff is just covering the bases of how I can talk to comedians and learn and talk to people. And I love conversations. I love talking to people. I love learning about people. I love like learning about, like you've taught me so much about music in this episode.
Oh. That'll be $35.
Yeah, I'll pay after we end. But yeah, and it's like that's what intrigues me about it. But I can still get lost in that. Okay, this is what all these other people do that are successful with this. This is what I need to do, as opposed to like paving my own path of how to get there.
No, I mean that's a very honest and fair approach. For me personally, I can't speak on behalf of other people, but I have been called, I've not been called a control freak, but I have been called obsessed, and I have worked with people who I would say, what about this? Let me go do this, and then I'll come back. And they're like, dude, we don't need to, that you're worrying too much. You're over worrying. It's this or whatever. And so I would say that, the number one thing, as you know, comedy can be live or it could be recorded or whatever. I would say at the very least for a live performance, you need to be comfortable, however you get there. Some people smoke a joint before. Some people just like are comfortable all the time. Doesn't whatever you need to do, you know, if it's not like killing anybody or whatever. You do what you need to do.
As long as it's not like
like as long as it's
like
not
felony.
Yeah,
felony
as long as you
status.
obey the 10 commandments. Did they update that?
Yeah.
As long as
Still 10.
But the thing is, I think that there's I personally would rather be someone that's more obsessed than not care at all.
Yeah.
I relate it to winter and summer. I prefer cold weather because I can actually take my jacket off and get. I prefer cold weather because I could put my jacket on and I can get warmer if I need to.
Gotcha.
In summer, I can't take my clothes off and then all of a sudden I become the temperature I want to be. So it's the same thing where it's like I prefer to be more obsessed than not care at all, because if I'm more obsessed, I can tell myself to dial it back when I decide that things don't matter or they do matter. You know? And the thing is, when you're doing that in your room or you're alone, you're working on something, it's just you. So there's really no other, disciples, right? So when you're with other people, that's when other people's either lack of interest or overbearing interest kind of get into the mix. And so you ultimately, as a comic or just as a person, have to kind of decide the sweet spot. And I think that's something that's all up here. Because no one knows you like you do. Yeah. And you know when what you're doing is going to drive you insane, but you also know that what you're doing is going to pay off to you. Yeah. Right. And ultimately it makes you feel comfortable. And that's the Patrick that people want to see. Yeah. On stage. You know what I'm saying? If you can do all those things, and then when you're on stage, you don't look like this obsessed lunatic. You just seem like this natural comic. I mean, that's impressive. Gotcha. You know, and that's what I do. That's what I try to do. Yeah. But I would say, since you're just starting out, and I'm only like 2 years in, so I'm still, like a sperm myself.
That scares me, because that's what I've talked to people and they're like, yeah, I'm like a year in, I'm like 2 years in, and I'm just now. And I'm like, man, but when I say that, I don't mean that in a bad sense. It's like to me, the journey is the fun. Like if one day I'm blessed to be the top of anything or at the top of the mountain of anything in life, I mean, it really doesn't. It sounds horrible, but it doesn't matter to me. Like, that's not why I do it. That's not why I do anything. That's not why I do production. That's not why I do editing. That's not why I do graphic design. I do it because I feel like I was given a gift. Yep. And I want to share that gift with the world. Oh yeah. And that's what I always stand behind. That's what I stand by. And some people don't get it, man. Some people do you make any money?
Yeah.
And it's
the thing is, one technique that I use to get over a bad set or not dread on it is say that the as bad as the set can go, what's the worst thing? Something that's even worse than that is if I just give up and stop doing stuff like this. And because the thing is, I had to come to terms with myself recently and just kind of decide, like, well, where is this going? What am I doing with it? Yeah. And I realized that, some people call me a comedian. Some people call me a musician. Some people call me on my phone. And the thing is, I realized, like, I consider myself to be a creator. Yeah. If you want to call it musician, whatever. I make music. I make comedy. I'm making these random silly videos. Yeah. I'm making, and no one's telling me to do it. And sometimes I get paid to do it, and other times I don't. See, I went about comedy and music in reverse. I got a job first, and then I started doing it. Because to me, personally, the money is not the point. No. If you want to make money in the arts, maybe start scratching lottery tickets. Yeah. It's not the point. And some people need it, and some people just want to get paid doing what they love, and I respect that very much. I want to focus on the content itself, and I just like creating. And I'm sure you understand, sometimes you're just up till 4 a.m, just doing something. Maybe it's a video or like a fucking PowerPoint, whatever it is, and no one's standing there with a gun behind your head telling you to do it. You just want to do it.
It's your drive.
It's your drive. And again, the worst set I've ever had in my life will never feel even half as bad as if one day I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. Yeah. And it's just, it's important. The other technique that I use to get over bad sets is what I call the ex-girlfriend technique.
Yeah.
You ever have an ex-girlfriend before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad, I had an ex-girlfriend a long time ago, and I guess most of them are typically long times ago. And it was super earth-shattering. Like, it was my first real girlfriend.
There's always one.
I was
There's
I was pretty convinced that, like, I was
world.
just never going to be able to have sex with a woman. Like,
Yeah.
I saw myself in the mirror every day. I'm like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so she was like the first. So it was like, oh, and so just instinctually, I pretty much became like Prince Charming.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing everything I could. I even lost some friends because my time was shifting here instead of there. And, you know, when it happened, it was so devastating. And it was like, how could, you know, like, what did I do wrong? What, you know, like, how could, you know, and my dad sat me down. He's like, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you this, and it's super negative, but it is the solution to your problems. I was like, all right, what is it, you know? And he's like, if you think it's bad, you know, just always think that it's probably going to happen again.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? What the fuck, Dad? Like, that's super net. What are you talking about? Like, again, I thought it was a personal dig at me.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, it's just like, now you have this experience.
Yeah.
Right? And
learn from it.
So in theory, the next time it does happen, and life's not perfect, so it's probably going to happen again, you should have like a little bit more armor next time, right? So
you're more prepared.
You won't shed as many tears.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And so
I get you.
that's sets now
Yeah.
too, right? Like you're saying, like, I know the bomb is coming. Like, no, it's many bombs. It's one it's one after another.
Well, yeah, but
know?
The first one's always the earth shattering.
Sure.
It's like it's you make it through that one first.
I think the first bomb is earth shattering because it's not the comedian, it's the support.
Yeah.
Because because everyone I know, one of the, you know, Mimi Benfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said it best. She said, yeah, your friends and family, they always come out to your first show.
Yeah.
And then you never see them again.
Yeah.
Right. So what winds up happening is they come out because Patrick's like, oh, I'm going to start doing comedy. And they're like, oh, shit, dude, Patrick is going to start doing it. And they come out and it's a blast. It's essentially a bringer show.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that you're not funny, but these people, they already have context.
Yes.
And they already love you.
Yeah.
And they want to see you succeed, right? So it's like boom, 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 boom. And again, it's not that it's not good, but actually it probably is good because you feel comfortable around these people, right? So then, that second or third or fourth show in, you know, they're nowhere to be found, man.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? We saw him. He's got this. He doesn't need us.
Yeah.
Man. We know.
supported him.
We know. The Big Bang Theory's on, so we're out of here, right? And
when you
so
put out
then
your
you're
first
like,
YouTube video, they like it, but then they don't like any ones after that.
Exactly. So I wouldn't anticipate the bomb. Just bomb, man.
Dude,
you know?
I'm just going. Just go. Like head down, face forward.
Listen, man, Little Caesars is still in business. If you
Yeah.
bomb, just go eat a whole pizza by yourself. and
$5.
just try it next day. Do it
Cheapest
again.
large pizza in the game.
That's right. Video games will always be there. Music will always be there. the mics will always be there.
I don't know that, like,
you know.
but then again, like, I don't. This is like so counter. I don't take it that like, I take it seriously, but I don't take it that. Does that make sense? I don't take it that seriously. So
Sometimes that helps in the long run.
So if I go, like, if I go out tonight, I have no idea what's going to happen tonight because this is like my first time not in front of a home crowd. It's my first time in front of other other comedians. Yeah. This is my first away game.
Genius.
And I have no idea. I have no idea if they'll relate to the 5 minutes that I did the last one that did really well. I have no idea. But if I go out there and I'm in the mindset right now that if I go out there and it doesn't go well, this is learning experience. Like this is me paying my dues.
Well, and so what I found, and you're right.
Yeah.
And what I found is that you'll start doing so many sets that you'll start feeling like, hey, there's some things to take away from this, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're going to go to rooms where, like, they're just jackasses. Like, not the audience, but, like, the people who work at that room.
Mm-hmm.
They play favorites, you know, and they just sort of have this, like, punk attitude.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
I've never seen him before, so I'm not going to laugh.
Yeah.
Who's the new guy?
Yeah.
Right? That type of, you know, crap. I try to keep an open mind. I don't think that's very, very nice. I don't think it's very fair. You know, someone's funny, you laugh.
Yeah.
But
You come to a comedy show. You come to
people,
laugh.
and Charlotte itself at the moment it is a little bit territorial.
Yeah.
Right, because there's like 20 of us and we know each other.
Yeah.
So it's, you know what I'm saying? And so it's you have to start isolating the factors of the show. What went well, what went wrong, and how do I know it for a fact? How do I know that these things benefit me? How do I know that these things don't? And so what I started doing, a lot of people offer video tape services or whatever. Yeah. I stopped doing that. I started recording it with my phone for just audio.
Yeah.
Because the most important thing to me at the moment was my sound. Mm-hmm. I was like, who am I on stage? Yeah. What am I doing? What's my voice? Maybe you've heard that. Like, yeah. What's my voice? And here's the trick. Even if what I was doing was working, do I like it?
Yeah.
Right? Because you could certainly fake something, and it could certainly make a ton of people laugh. But then you have to ask yourself, like, oh man, that has a shelf life. Like, is that really going to be? Do I have to be that Patrick now?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to.
See,
be.
that's
you know what I'm saying?
Through the first two, my biggest like I kept saying two things in my head, like slow down, take your time, let them process it, and like just be you.
For sure.
So I don't have to act like I've always wanted people to know me. Like I don't put on a front for anybody. I never have. I never will. So I don't want to give a false sense of who I am on stage, and then step off stage and they're like, oh yeah, that's just an act.
Well, and I think
you have to be like red lights on all the time. I could that drive me absolutely crazy.
And I think, and again, all this is just my personal experience. Of course, I don't dictate any. It's not like it's how it goes or anything. But
you learn from people who have done it.
Fact.
Yes.
I would say one of the tricks for me that kind of opened up like opportunity in terms of development was I approached it the same way, where it was kind of like, I want to be myself. I don't want to necessarily be like this clown, And what a lot of people, including myself, I think fail to realize sometimes is that the whole thing doesn't have to be 100% an act. Like, you could be a little animated, and you can be a little bit exaggerated. And to me, I guess my little personal rule of thumb was I drew a triangle in my notebook. It was like the Holy Trident. And I said, all right. And it's kind of limiting, but it helped me focus. It was like, these are going to be the three things that every joke that I make and want to keep have to have. Otherwise, I'm throwing it out.
Yeah.
One was it had to be funny, which sounds stupid, but there's got to be somewhere in there. The one was it had to be true, and not necessarily like a true story or it really happened. It just had to be me not lying.
Yeah.
I could exaggerate and I could animate and I could, make up things, but like not something that's like a complete 180 degrees outside of my persona.
Yeah.
And of course the third was it had to be me. And so the thing is, a lot of my jokes that I do, and you'll start getting this, people will start coming, and maybe they already have, people will start coming up to you after the show and they'll start telling you their favorite jokes of yours and why. And often I find my favorites and my least favorites in music too, in songs too, they don't match.
Yeah.
They don't match with people.
I do know that with music.
And even if they do match, the reasoning is off.
Yeah.
People will be like, hey man, that joke is amazing. I'm like, well, I hate it. And they're like, what? Yeah. And I learned to, keep my mouth shut and just smile. I'm like, thank you. Thanks for coming. But it's one of those things where even though it might be animated, even though it might be silly, if someone were to read between the lines, they would know that it's you. It's totally you. You know what I'm saying? And the joke that I do, it's not like a little bit about myself. It's not on the nose. It's not, hey, you're about to hear things about me.
Yeah.
Instead, I just do the joke, and I'm in the joke.
Yeah.
Right. So over time, just like with your friends, people will be like, "That's Patrick. That's love or hate. Like that's him." You know what I'm saying? And I think, at least my analysis of most of the comedians that I like and have observed, whatever their style is, that's what they were doing. They were just, they were being themselves and then adding comedy when they needed to.
Yeah.
So that was my takeaway, I guess.
Very
if
interesting.
That makes sense.
Well, dude, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you coming on.
This is the coolest studio I've ever been in.
Is it
There's
really?
power tools. There's CRT TVs.
There's some piping equipment. There's an old G.I. Joe set behind you.
Dead guy nice.
Yeah, look at this.
We're protected.
Yeah.
The soldiers.
John Deere tractor.
We got it all. This is dope, man. This is really cool.
But thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you for listening to Chewsday Special podcast. Subscribe on iTunes, leave a like on this video, and comment down below. Oh yeah, bang! Oh yeah, bang! Oh my god.